Hey guys, and welcome back to another Lost Bits video right here on TetraBitGaming, the series where we explore video game content that goes unused, altered, or normally unseen. Now I know I often start with the first game in the series when tackling a new one here on Lost Bits, but unless you've been isolated at home for the past few weeks, then you probably know that the Final Fantasy VII Remake is finally upon us. Fans have basically been waiting for a remake ever since that one PS3 tech demo that got everyone's hopes up over a decade ago. Since it seems I'm all about testing the waters with new game series on the channel this year, I think now is a perfect time to dive into the original Final Fantasy VII. And hey, as a bonus, now I finally have a reason to bust open my PlayStation Classic. There is a ton of stuff that goes unused, unseen, or altered between versions, but for this video I'll be focusing on the bits that I think are the most noteworthy. And of course, as always, let me know if you'd like to see more Final Fantasy stuff on the channel in the future. Anyways guys, with all of that said, go grab your lengthy Buster Sword, it's time to find some lost bits. Alright, let's start things off with some of the game's unused materia. These are present in each regional release of the game, but they appear without a name outside of the original Japanese release. There are 6 of these materia, each with a different effect, and again, these English names are just derivatives based on the given Japanese names. First are a few green materia that would have resulted in some defensive abilities. Ma Barrier, probably short for Magic Barrier, would teach the M Barrier ability, which creates a barrier resistant to magic. Reflect would teach the move Reflect at level 1, and then Wall at level 2, and then Reflect Absorb would only teach the Wall ability and only at level 2. Next is Law, a yellow materia that would have taught the Gill Toss command. It's apparently called Law due to the joke being that to hire a lawyer is to basically be throwing away money. Good one. This materia goes completely unused in the Japanese version, but it went on to be reworked into the Throw command in later releases. Then there's Booster, a blue materia that does nothing awesome, but it is believed that it was intended to have boosted AP gain after winning a battle. And lastly is Underwater Respiration, and this is the underwater purple materia that is given to the player to remove the 20-minute timer at the fight with Emerald Weapon. Now, while Underwater is used in the North American and European versions of Final Fantasy VII, this of course goes unused in the original Japanese version as Emerald Weapon is non-existent there. Next, this game also has a few normally unused key items, 3 to be exact. These include a letter to a wife, a letter a traveling salesman in Gongaga would have asked you to deliver to his wife in Calm, letter to a daughter for some daughter who again lives in Calm, and finally, and probably one of the most well-known unused items, are the mysterious Panties. Please don't get demonetized, please don't get demonetized, please don't get demonetized. Now this item was intended to be obtained at the Wall Market Honeybee Inn scene where Cloud cross-dresses as the third underwear item. This was scrapped as the scene to obtain it was cut, but there is actually a way that these can still be obtained, but we'll get back to that in a bit. Moving on, for some miscellaneous unused stuff, we got an unused status effect as well as an unused element. The unused element is still present in a few attacks, but since most of them don't do any damage, it's irrelevant. The only attack that deals damage to have this element associated with it is the ultimate weapon's Ultima Beam. It doesn't seem to really have any effect, and at this time it's still unknown if there's even enough data left over to ever find out what it was, as it was mostly removed from the game by the developers. Then for the unused status effect, it is referenced as Duel, and while it may not do anything in the final release, based on the name it is speculated that it may have acted similarly to the double status effect from Final Fantasy VIII, which allows the player to cast 2 magic spells in one turn. This is also the effect of the W magic materia, so it is believed that this dual effect was just reworked into that instead. Then, in addition to unused status effects and elements, there's also some leftover scrapped enemy data. First, apparently both the Ho-Chu and Tonberry enemies, which can only normally be fought in the battle square, have unused data that suggests that they were planned to appear in the Ancient Forest and Northern Crater Maze, respectively. And although it's not really unused, interestingly, the Tonberry also has an attack that has a very low chance of occurring. It's called time damage, and the way its damage is calculated is it takes the amount of hours the player has played the game, multiplies it by 100, and then adds the minute of the next hour played. But the criteria for this move to be used is the player must pull off 3 consecutive attacks, which, like I said, is pretty rare. Anyways, next there's also an unused hidden enemy skill for dual horn enemies. This skill costs a whopping 65,536 MP and would have been used if its health dropped below 50%. And for all of that, what does the dual horn enemy get? An attack that targets a random character in the fight and does nothing. Okay, now let's shake things up a bit and shift gears to the lone audio track that goes unused in Final Fantasy VII. Well, normally unused anyway. This song is only found in the original Japanese version as well as the original PC port, and it bears the name Comical. Here, let's listen to a quick sample. This was meant to be used for a normally inaccessible alternate version of the scene with Palmer at the Honey Bee Inn. But again, that's something we'll come back to later in this video. You know what they say, where there's unused audio, there's unused text strings. So let's talk text strings. This game actually has a lot of unused dialogue strings, too many in fact, to go over in this video. First are some text strings related to the world map, and these include jump, from, new, old, text for setting the window limit in the X and Y coordinates, and then a bunch of other what seems like debugging text. Next, and my favorite unused text string, is a hidden message found in the game's 3rd disc. This is a message from one of the game's developers to his wife. It reads, "Great special thanks to you, Ariko, from your husband, Hideji." I actually wonder if this Ariko even knows this exists. And that's not even close to being all of the unused text left out from this game. There are several more strings for the field segments, not to mention a plethora of unused dialogue strings. In the interest of time, I will be leaving these out from this video, but if you are interested in reading up more about them, I will direct you to the cutting room floor page, which is linked down in my sources below. But anyways, onto some unused graphics we go, fellas. First, only in the German release, amongst the graphics for the heads-up display for the submarine minigame is a hidden note in Japanese. This one's pretty straightforward. It translates to real depth for German, and it points to the Tiefe graphic, which is German for depth. Not sure what else I was expecting. Then, in a similar hidden manner, normally hidden away under the graphics for the 500 years later text seen after the game's end credits, scribbled is the original Japanese release date of the game, December 12th, 1996. A pretty slick little Easter egg. Also hidden is this guy in the prison well. He's actually always there, but the game just masks him out. It is believed that this guy might be some sort of cameo appearance of one of the game's developers. I think he needs a name though. Let me know what we should name him down in the comments. Then next is this unused portrait graphic. This placeholder contains the phrase "now printing" written in Japanese. We've seen these before here on Lost Bits, like back in the Mario Party 1 episode, and these are often used to simply convey that a final image just isn't ready yet. Since the backgrounds in Final Fantasy VII are just 2D images, I might as well lump them in here as well. There are actually quite a few unused or alternate areas left out from the game. In the interest of time, I'll just quickly go through them here though. And first, let's get the less interesting ones out of the way. There's Dummy, Black BGA, BGE, BGF, and BGG, White BG1, and White BG2, and these are all just empty black or white screens. Crazy stuff, I know. Then there's a hill type area named Trap, Junmon, Spin 22, empty cargo ship storage room, TRNAD 53, an unused area for the Northern Cave, XMV Test, Fall P, and more. There are also several locations that, while they don't contain much data, it still has been predicted what they may have been. There's a great page on the lifestream.net site that goes into more detail into all of these maps, and some were even able to be loaded into. So if you're interested in learning more about these maps, I'll again leave a link to this site down in the description below. And while we're on the topic of unused rooms, now let's move on to some that I was actually able to access myself. And these ones, although unused, actually are more than just an empty area. We have all normally inaccessible Onna 1, Onna 3, and Onna 6. Onna apparently translates from Japanese to woman, so it's no surprise that all of these were meant for the Honeybee Inn. Before we dive in, it's important to understand that these rooms all make up what the first floor of the Honeybee Inn was initially intended to be. Here is a nifty little comparison, again from the lifestream.net, comparing the original design with the final used one. Anyways, let's get to the rooms. Loading into these wasn't all too bad, but Onna 3 and 6 just loading in would often cause Cloud to get stuck in something, not allowing me to move. So I had to warp into these rooms from several different areas until I managed to load in and move. Anyways, so for Onna 3, we have what looks like a lounge room at the inn, complete with furniture, some snacks, and a TV that flips through several fields from the game, including the beta design of Cosmo Canyon. Also, I forgot to mention this, but the door still swings open here to the lobby, but unfortunately there's no warp programmed for it at this point. Additionally, and more importantly, there are 4 possible NPCs that can appear here. First, pacing back and forth, is Quedge, Wedge's younger brother, who appears to not be very comfortable being at the Honeybee Inn. Then we got either Mucky or Mucky's friend, each which will appear depending on if you've interacted with Mucky already. Mucky will just talk about coming to his room after training, and Mucky's friend will just complain about Mucky ditching him. And lastly, but not least, we have this guy, just known as Red Jacket Guy. He basically just talks about Tifa hunting for men or something, but that's not the interesting bit. If you talk to Jimbo here after some events that occur, he will have alternate dialogue. If you come here with an underwear key item, he will keep mumbling about his affection for Tifa. But if you come here and skipped getting the underwear item, he will mention that he'll give you something good. Something he snatched from the clothesline in the back of Tifa's shop. That's right, this is how you can actually obtain the mysterious Panties key item. Cloud mentions how the pattern on it looks like it's for kids, which is kinda all sorts of messed up. What the f***? Anyways, yep, there you go. Okay, moving on now is Onna 6, which I was able to get into normally, but to move around for whatever reason the graphics got messed up, so here is what it's supposed to look like. This looks to be like another lounge room of sorts, and this time we only have 2 NPCs here. First is Chubby Old Man, who is apparently an employee of the inn having a little snooze. He basically just mentions that this room now belongs to the employees, and this place used to be called either the Adult's Nest or the Lovey-Dovey Nest. Then next is a guard who is seen looking out of a window. He actually offers a deeper, more serious conversation and talks about retreating into his own shell and not being able to see a star in the sky, which makes him want to leave Midgar even though he can't really bring himself to do so. It seems like a pretty out-of-place conversation, given the setting. And last but certainly not least for the Honeybee Inn is Onna 1, and this is the scrapped lobby area. There's quite a lot to unpack here, so first let's talk about what we can see in the background. Probably the thing that sticks out the most here is the large TV. It flips through 4 different screens, 3 of them are ladies with the messages reading, "Chat with beautiful women, welcome to my nest," and "How about some honey?" Sure, honey sounds pretty good. Then this slide is a menu of sorts. It offers 2 special courses. Wonder what those could be. A 30-minute course and one for 150 minutes. Then these fans at the front here translate to Honeybee Beauty's welcome. The heart here says to go up to the 2nd floor, and then this sign is a warning that all other brothel owners, scouts, and minors are prohibited, and that trying to poach away a hostess will result in a 100,000 gil fine. Then on the left side of the lobby, the screen sign reads, "Today's Girls," and above the door it just says, "No entry." Here we can also see, I guess, today's girls, one of which apparently is supposed to be Tifa. Okay, and now onto the characters and events that go on in this lobby. First, again staying on the left side here, is this fella sporting a rat tail. He seems to be having a rough time deciding which girl to choose and mentions that he's interested in Tifa. If you can get him to confide in you, he will also mention that he already has a relationship with another girl, but get this, even after 3 years of seeing each other, she still won't even let him hold her hand. Here you go, sir, you dropped your simp card. Next, if you try to go up the stairs here without being admitted, the somber guard from the previous room will rush down and stop you and tell you that you gotta pay to go up there. Then next at the counter area, we got a receptionist, a regular customer who looks like the guy that gives you the Honeybee Inn membership card, and finally the Shinra Manager. For starters, the customer guy just mentions how he starved 3 days for this. And then the Shinra Manager just goes on about how great it is that he can afford to go to a place like this due to his job. But the reason this lobby, I think, stands out more than the other 2 rooms the most is that there are actually 2 whole cutscenes that can occur here involving these characters. The first of these occurs after agreeing to wait in line behind the Shinra Manager. Then, after the receptionist calls for the next girl to come out, a honeybee girl comes from the dressing room to cheers of an unseen crowd. She then thanks the customer for waiting in text that flashes like it were limit breaking. The honeybee girl then blows a kiss that turns into a heart at the customer, which knocks him right out. The customer then gets dragged out by the guard, the girl apologizes and retreats back into the dressing room as Cloud just shrugs. Then the next scene can be activated here by talking to the Shinra Manager 3 more times. You basically eavesdrop into his conversation with the receptionist as he asks for a younger girl and then whispers his name to the receptionist because apparently it's some big secret. Now this is where the normally unused comical song I mentioned earlier was meant for. After another honeybee girl comes down from the 2nd floor steps, she is followed by Palmer, the head of Shinra's space program. Long story short, he turns into Wobbuffet after getting a kiss from the girl, notices his fellow Shinra employee and smacks him for being there. The manager tries to think of an excuse, comes up with a lame one, and then crawls and runs away in shame and fear that Palmer might transfer him or make him write up an apology letter for either also having spent time with this honeybee girl in the past, or for simply just being there. And once again, Cloud shrugs. There's actually also a small 3rd cutscene that can happen here if you come back with a membership card. Basically, another honeybee girl will be called up, will look at Cloud, and then skip up to the 2nd floor. Nothing crazy. Anyways, with this lobby and all of these cutscenes still more or less remaining complete, it seems likely that they were scrapped later in the game's development. Why exactly, though, is still up in the air. I do wonder if any of this will get added back in some form at least in the new remake. I'd love to see this in HD. Okay, and for the last stop of this video, as always, my favorite things to see in games, unused test and debug rooms. And thankfully, this game has quite a few to go through. First, we start off in this hub area of sorts with the Final Fantasy VII logo in the middle of 8 circles, each with a Japanese character on it. Each of these circles also leads to a different debug room, and in addition to those, walking either to the top or bottom of the area will lead to 2 more rooms, bringing the total to 10. Before we dive into each of these rooms, this hub area also contains a Yuffie model, and she is our gate to our first set of debugging options here. She offers some pretty nifty features here, toggling battles on and off, disabling the pre-rendered cutscenes, resetting your party or resetting the game's clock, starting a new game with your current stats, giving you every materia in the game, including the unused ones I mentioned earlier, and more. But then there's also Battle 999, which I think is the most interesting option here. This will take you to a test battle against a group of pyramids? They just kinda sit there and don't ever attack you back. I guess this was just a fight left in here to test basics like targeting and attacking. These pyramids, however, give you a whopping 500,000 EXP points and gil for defeating them, which is certainly nothing to sneeze at. What's even weirder is that this fight is actually different in the original Japanese release. The test pyramids are gone, and instead we fight 5 Deanglows in their place. The background here is also apparently unique to this fight. I find it kinda weird that this fight was actually regressed to placeholders in later revisions of the game. Okay, and now onto the rest of the debug rooms. So as I mentioned, each of these circles bears a Japanese character, and these are each short form for one of the developer names, and then of course the other developer names here on the top and bottom. In clockwise order, I'm probably gonna butcher these, we have Kita, short for Yoshinori Kitase, No for Kazushige Nojima, Tori for Motomu Toriyama, Matsu for Kesuke Matsuhara, Chi for Hiroki Chiba, Aki for Jun Akiyama, Yoshi for Kazuhiko Yoshioka, Kyo for Hideshi Kyonen, and then of course Takahashi Tokita and then Masato Kato at the top and bottom respectively. I can only assume they are named this way as each dev probably used their own respective debug room to test the things that they needed to. Anyways, now let's finally start jumping into these rooms. Starting off at the top with Kita, here we have 2 rows of characters, each with a different use for debugging. Although not in the same formation, this is basically how all of the test rooms work. Oh yeah, Cloud's pants also started glowing here for some reason. Anyways, first is President Shinra, and talking to him allows you to warp to various points in the game, mostly related to the ancient city. Actually, this is basically what most of the characters do in these debug rooms, just instantly take you to certain parts of the game in a matter of seconds. Super nifty if you want to get far in the game fast, or if you want to replay certain parts without needing to play the entire game over again. Like here, the glowing heiress will take you to several key points surrounding her character and her. But on the flip side, while this may be good, oftentimes these warps will leave you just stuck in something, being unable to move, so it's not all that useful sometimes. It's a hit or miss, really. In a similar fashion, instead of just warping to an area, many of these characters will also just take you to one of the pre-rendered cutscenes. Since there are so many of these characters that basically just warp you or cause a cutscene to play, I will be skipping over them, so if I don't mention what a character does in one of these rooms, this is why. The only other character in this room that doesn't just warp you to a different part in the game is Jessie here. Her menu actually allows you to change up your party. Here you can instantly add Eris, Tifa, Barret, Red 8, Sid, Ketchi, Yuffie, or Vincent to your party. So I guess she must have been used just to test party management. Now onto the second room, we got once again more warps and cutscene menus, and Barret, who is another party management test. I guess I should mention the party management characters are also going to be pretty reoccurring here. The only character here with something different is the red-haired guy who provides the option of performing a global reset, which basically just resets everything including your party, time played, and more. The third room refreshingly has some more debugging features we haven't seen yet. Here, several button inputs will trigger some effects. After being greeted to the English version of the game, pressing L1 will toggle battles, L2 will set your team to consist of Cloud, Barret, and Tifa, R1 will bring up a reset flag string, R2 will reset the names of all party members and zero out your money count, but pressing R2 again will give you debug money, or 131,071 gil. Nice. Lastly, pressing square will do another reset thing, and this will remove all team members, money, etc. Apart from these though, just more warps and cutscenes, but there are some notable things here too. First, this old ancient will allow you to add Sephiroth to the team. Yep, he's all friendly now apparently. And then the other thing is from the Shinra soldier here, who although is another character that just warps you, he can take you to a scene that actually goes unused. This scrapped scene is from the cargo train, and we can see Cloud run up to the camera and freak out before the game just fades to black. Then next is the fourth room as we spawn in surrounded by all of these characters. It's kind of weird. Unfortunately for us though, there's nothing here that's really noteworthy, so let's move on. In the fifth room, Cloud now gets to wield the Buster Sword, I guess to defend himself against his own clones here. Thankfully, the Cloud in the middle has some good news for us as he does something we haven't seen yet. Well, kinda. He partly is another warp, but this time he can instantly warp you to some of the game's mini-games like the Chocobo Race or the Shooting Coaster. Additionally, he can also let you rename any of the game's party characters. Party. Party? Un or Un? Yeah, sorry Aerith, I don't know what you want from me. Jokes aside, basically all she does is act as another party manager, but this time a bit more robust as she can set certain characters to a respective slot, which is kinda cool, I suppose. The lowest Yuffie here also has some goodies for us. She can give us 294,967,295 gil, but she can also take it all away, add and remove party members and items, give you 32,767 gold saucer bucks, give you 99 mega elixirs, 99 power and speed sources, and a bunch of other items in addition to making every materia mastered. Furthermore, she can also maximize your love points with Aeris, Tifa, Yuffie, and Barret, or just simply show you your romance stats with them instead. I gotta say, this Yuffie is definitely one of the more interesting debugging characters in these rooms. Next is room 6, and I'll give you 3 guesses as to what we'll find here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I really hope you didn't guess something other than more warps, cutscenes, or party managers. Next. Okay, room 7 finally has something notable for us. When interacting with Tifa here, although you can't see anything, she does offer 7 debug options. Giving you 300 gil, giving you 131,072 gil, giving you 99 of every item, toggling battles on or off, removing all items, team members, and all that jazz. And once again, here she can also warp you to the test fight with the pyramids. Unfortunately for us though, the rest of the schmucks here are more of the same we've already seen. That said, some of the characters like the wrestler here can also take you to some other minigames. For room 9, there's a save point in the middle here, which just acts as a save point, go figure. And then Barret here will fill your materia list completely with Bahamut materia. And ending off on a high note, we have the 10th and final room labeled as Masato Kato. As soon as you load in, you are given 2 options, one for those in a hurry and one for those with some time. How nice of them to give us this option. They both do lead to a similar outcome, but the latter option is much more entertaining. First, you'll notice there are only 3 other characters here, a doctor, a nurse, and a giant Aeris. While the doctor is just another warp guy and the nurse is just another party manager, of course the interesting stuff lies with and around big Aeris here. Firstly, although most of her options here are just warps, the last option is a bit different. You can choose to go to a Hades area. Now, although Hades is a summon materia in the game, here I believe it's referring to Hades as the hell-like home of the dead, named after the god of the underworld in Greek mythology. To this, she will shake her head and say that you are already in Hades. Kinda spooky, really. Then, when walking around her here, you will also notice some other text boxes appear over nothing. Well, this is actually the floor talking to you. So I guess I lied. Counting the sentient floor here, there are actually 4 other characters. The floor will first warn you against stepping on it, and if you do step on it again in a certain area, it will yell out in pain, and then a really annoying ambulance siren-like sound will begin to play. I really do dig this kind of humor, so props to the devs for leaving this in here as a small little Easter egg, even though very few people would see it. And lastly for this room is another hidden secret. If you go and talk to the nurse and first choose I'm starting over and then princess, you will then get full control over Mega Aeris and you can run around in the area to your heart's content. You can't really do much as her, but I thought it was still a really cool little secret, and it was interesting to put her beside the other characters to see just how big she really was. Now that's all of the debug rooms in this area, but there is apparently one more debug room that is a leftover from an earlier build of Final Fantasy VII. Being from a prior build, it is very glitchy, incomplete as you can see all the characters faceless, and Cloud is also invisible to boot. Additionally, a very weird sounding version of Aeris' theme will play. Apparently it sounds weird due to this area using an older sound font used in previous beta builds of the game. Overall, a 10 out of 10 creepypasta tier debug room. To conclude, although these debug rooms did have some really neat features, this was certainly a case of quantity over quality. Like, I get that each dev probably wanted their own test room, but really, one character for warping, one for cutscenes, and one for party management probably would have sufficed, you know? But either way, these debug rooms were pretty fun to mess around with, and can't complain too much, seeing as how we got to play as Ultra Aeris. Anyways guys, that will be it for this Final Fantasy VII Lost Bits video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I could be wrong, but I think this is the longest Lost Bits to date, so shout out to you if you made it this far. As always guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like down below and check out some more of my Lost Bits videos by clicking on the card right here. Subscribe here for future videos, swing by my other social media things which are all linked down in the description below, and if you want to support the channel, check out my merch over at TetraBitGaming.com, or consider becoming the latest member of the Bit Club to get some nifty extra channel perks. Click on the join button below for more information. Anyways guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in a bit.